Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is American Perspectives. Today we're going to talk about conservatives. Specifically, we're going to try to define what a conservative is. I think there's lots of confusion out there about what a conservative is, especially among those people who don't consider themselves a conservative. And there are lots of stereotypes about what conservatives are. If you listen to the liberal media, you'll hear us referred to or described in all kinds of different ways. Many people think of conservatives as being uneducated, unsophisticated. Basically, I think they think of conservatives as pickup driving, gun-toting, tobacco-chewing, beer-drinking rednecks who live in trailers and think that comic books are literature. Well, I'm a conservative, and I can tell you that's not true. Many conservatives are highly educated and successful people. And the thing that makes a conservative is the values that he or she holds. Now, what values do most conservatives share? I'm going to give you a list of things here. And this doesn't mean that everybody who is a conservative or considers themselves a conservative believes in all of these things. That would not be the case. You can't group people in a category like that and say, well, everybody who's one of these believes this, because they may not. And so I'm not trying to say everybody who's a conservative believes the things or values the things that I'm going to list here. But it's been my experience over the years that most people who are conservative tend to hold values similar to these that I'm going to give you. And one is that conservatives value theism. Most conservatives are Christians of one sort or another. Doesn't mean they all are, but many of them are. They believe in God, and they value organized religion. Going to church is something that they value and that they care about. They value moral absolutes, the idea that there are some things that are absolutely right and they're never wrong, and some things are absolutely wrong and they're never right. Conservative people think in terms of individualism rather than collectivism. I used to live in Africa, at a small village in Nigeria, West Africa, in fact, and the people there are very collectivistic. Everything has to do with the family and with the village. And it's a very different way of thinking, rather than the Western individualism that most of us utilize as our perspective for thinking about ourselves and other people. And if you think of yourself as an individual, usually you think of yourself as someone with free will. You're a self-determined person. You make your own choices. And conservative people value that. We value self-reliance and personal responsibility. I take care of myself, and if I make a mistake and mess things up, that's on me. And if I do well, that's on me too. Personal liberty is important to most conservatives. We value the concept of freedom and rights, the unalienable rights that the Declaration of Independence references. We value that. It means a lot to us. We like the idea of equality. Everybody should be considered to have the same worth and value. And as equals, we need the same access, the same opportunity, the same responsibilities, things like that, because we're all equals. We value free market economy. That's another way of saying we're capitalist. And that's not a dirty word. It's not a bad word. The idea of capitalism is not equivalent to greed or greediness. It's just a way of doing business where you risk your money, your time, and your effort in hopes of making a profit. And that's the economic system that's been used throughout the world pretty much as long as people have been uh, doing business of one sort or another until the last 150 years or so. Then some different systems came into play. But by far, the oldest economic system in the world is a free market economy. We believe and value a strong military. We need to keep our armed forces strong and well supplied. And we have usually an originalist view of how the Constitution should be interpreted. And that means the way the founders understood it and the way they intended it for it to be applied, that's how it should be understood and applied today. And conservatives usually approach the Constitution like that. There could be a dozen other things that I could list in this portion of the video, but this is probably enough for you to get an idea of what we're really talking about here. And what it boils down to is that conservatives are not a bunch of deplorables. Conservative values, our ideas, our goals, our hopes, our dreams, these are the things that make America strong. And conservative values, I think, are what the Founding Fathers envisioned for our country. What were they thinking when they sat down to write those documents, when they hashed everything out in trying to come up with just the right combination of things to create a new country that was different from the countries in Europe? They wanted something where people had a different set of guidelines and some different opportunities. And so what were they thinking of when they worked out all of that? I think they were thinking about rights that cannot be denied. And that was something that had been a challenge for hundreds of years in Europe with the different kinds of governments that existed there. Our Founding Fathers wanted to be sure that not only that we had rights, but those rights would be protected and no one would be able to infringe on those rights. They understood government as something that needed to be limited. They wanted limited government that would allow for maximum personal liberty. People had to be free. And in order for people to be free, government had to be limited. It had to be controlled. And we're going to talk about that later in another video. The idea that if government gets out of control, if government gets too big, then people's liberty ends up being limited. And so it should be limited government, not limited liberty. They thought that we would need a society of responsible, productive people. That's a big part of being a free society. And I think the Founding Fathers understood that. And so if people are going to be free, they have to be responsible and they need to be productive. And it's those combinations of things that make America the greatest country in the world. A society of self-reliant people, proud to be Americans who love their country. I think that's what the Founding Fathers were, and that's what the Founding Fathers wanted for the people of our American society. And I want to say, too, before we finish today, that we need to know and understand that there is a difference between far-right radicals and conservatives. Usually, everybody who is considered to be to the right of center gets lumped into one big group. And it doesn't work that way. That's not right. It's not fair to do that. Radical rights, radical right-wing people and conservatives are not necessarily the same thing. The people who attacked the Capitol a couple of weeks ago were not typically conservative people. Instead, I believe that they were radicals. And when we all get lumped together, that's not right, or it's not fair. Conservatives are also not, generally speaking, racist or white supremacists. And to say that we are is just inappropriate. Conservatives are people who made America the greatest nation the world has ever seen. And if you're a conservative, in my estimation, in my opinion, you need to be proud of who you are. If you like what you hear in these videos, it would be really helpful to me if you would click the little thumbs up button down below, maybe hit the subscribe button as well and the notification buttons. That would really help out our channel. I want to thank you for watching today, and I hope that you will watch more of our videos. Thank you.